Rastafari is often seen, but barely understood. It appears in images, in colors, in music, in fashion. But Rastafari was never meant to be consumed. It was meant to be lived. This is not a story about trends. This is a story about identity, resistance, and grounding. This is Rastafari. Not as a stereotype, but as a movement. Rastafari was born in Jamaica in the 1930s, at the time when freedom existed more on paper than in daily life. Slavery has ended, but inequality had not. Land was still controlled by a few. Power was still distant, and black people were taught still openly that they were inferior mentally, spiritually, and culturally. Rastafari emerged as a response to that condition though. Not a rebellion of chaos, but a correction of identity. When Haile Selassie was crowned Emperor of Ethiopia in 1930, something shifted. For people across the Caribbean, this moment carried weight. A black king on African soil, recognized by the world. It wasn't about worship, it was about restoration. It challenged the narrative that African had no greatness, no order, no dignity. Rastafari used this moment to reconnect black people to a history deeper than colonialism. Rastafari spoke openly about Babylon, not as a country, but as a system of exploitation, a system of mental control, a system that rewards obedience and punishes independence. Rastafari didn't ask people to hate the world, it asked them to understand it, to question power, to examine beliefs, to think for themselves. And that alone made the movement dangerous. One of the most misunderstood aspects of Rastafari is ganja. It was never about escape. It was about reasoning, reflection, and meditation. A sacrament, not a stereotype. But the world simplified it, criminalized it, and used it to dismiss the entire philosophy. The same happened with locks. Not fashion, not rebellion for attention. Locks symbolize covenant, discipline, and rejection of vanity. A physical declaration of mental independence. Early Rastafari followers were not celebrated. They were beaten, arrested, mocked, excluded. They were denied jobs, pushed to the margins, and labeled as madmen. Yet they stood firm. They grew food. They built community. They reasoned under trees. They lived the message, even when it cost them comfort. Then the drums carried the message. Nyabingi rhythms, chants, heartbeat sounds. Later reggae carried Rastafari across the world through Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, Burning Spear, and others. The message traveled, even when the meaning was diluted. Liberation became lyrics, rebellion became vibes. The sound was loved, the discipline was ignored. Today, Rastafari exists everywhere and nowhere. The colors are worn, the language is borrowed, the image is sold, but symbols are easier than responsibilities. Rastafari asks for stillness in a world addicted to speed. It asks for discipline in a culture obsessed with excess. That makes it uncomfortable, and discomfort rarely trends. For Caribbean youths today, identity is under constant pressure. Social media defines worth. Trends dictate behavior. Validation is outsourced. Rastafari offers something different. Rootedness. It says you don't need permission to be yourself. You don't need to copy to belong. But it also demands patience, self-control, and intention. And those things are hard in a fast world. Rastafari never promoted domination. It promoted self-mastery. A man was measured by consistency, by discipline, by how he treated women, children, elders, and land. Fatherhood mattered. Words mattered. Example mattered. Power was not loud. Authority came from integrity, though. That model of masculinity rarely gets attention today, but it builds community. Rastafari would not exist without women. They carried families, maintained values, grounded in the movement. Often quietly, Rasta women were not decorations. They were anchors. While some experienced limitation, many found purpose, structure, and dignity. The movement evolved, as all living movements must. Balance, not domination, was always the ideal. Rastafari still offer grounding in a disconnected world, though. Discipline in an age of excess. Clarity in a time of noise. Mental freedom in a system built uncontrolled. It does not promise comfort. It offers direction. It does not chase relevance. It waits for readiness. Rastafari was never meant for everyone. It was meant for those willing to take responsibility for their minds. It does not perform. It does not beg attention. It stands as a mirror, as a compass, as a reminder that freedom begins in the mind, that identity is not for sale, and that truth does not need volume. Rastafari is not a stereotype. It is a movement, unchanged, unbothered, and unmoved.